Hi, everyone. I just want to let you know we are shifting over to our Q&A, and I'll be getting Andy on and Ben Woodbury from the Friends of History here shortly. So, Andy, we do have a question from the chat, which is the Santa Fe River would normally flow to the Rio Grande at Cochiti. The city is planning on building a pipeline to pipe treated water back to the Rio Grande at Buckman. Why isn't it being diverted back to the Rio Grande at Cochiti?
So I hope you can hear me okay, yes. So the main reason for that is that the water that comes right out of the wastewater treatment plant is deemed to be owned by the city because they treated it and processed it and that sort of thing. And so the shortest route is for them to pipe it back up to the place from which they draw the water for the Buckman direct diversion. That's part of the San Juan Chama water. And if they do that right to that site, they get, I'm going to say 100% return flow credits, which allows them to draw more of their allotment from the San Juan Chama water. If they put that water back in downstream, anywhere downstream below where they're taking it out, they have to discount how much they get for return flow credits. So if they put it in, I'm going to say down by, Cochiti, Pueblo, let's say they get, 90% return flow credits versus 100% if they put it in back up right by the Buckman direct diversion from which they take it out. And it's the same thing that happens when people have bought water rights down by Socorro, which the city of Santa Fe has, and move those upriver. Then that water is discounted, which kind of makes sense because, of course, it's water that's traveled the roughly 70 miles on downriver, and so it's more than that. Over like 100 miles. So some of that water that they're putting back in is lost, if you will. The other reason that the city has given for putting it back in up by the Buckman direct diversion is that pipeline goes right by the Buckman water treatment plant. And so potentially in the future, this water could be treated the additional amount, I think they call it tertiary treatment, that would make it totally recyclable and close the loop, if you will.
How would you gauge the health of the watershed in relation to recent history, longer history? Are we on an up cycle? A positive trend?
I get what you mean, and we can do it too in over that long term, if you will. 400 years ago, before there was Spanish settlements in the area, the river was a bit different, of course, than it is today, and so it went from probably flowing most of the year, depending, of course, on snow and normal meteorological and climate changes. And then, of course, when they started putting the reservoirs in upstream, and the first one was the Old Stone Dam, 1885, I believe, then all of a sudden the river flows stopped flowing because they were diverting it to pipes into houses. So what happens there? The water is not recharged in the aquifers and the water tables, and so you have basically a desertification. I always get the pronunciation wrong on those, but anyway, with the dropping water table, and that probably reached its peak right after World War II, when we were really losing our water table. It was going south. A lot of that was the advent of electric pumps, so people could really get into their wells and pull the water out in large quantities fairly cheaply. So that, I'm going to say, put that about the 50s or 60s, and then we realized we had some issues going on with doing that. And so they started basically the reservoirs, utilizing the reservoirs in conjunction with the aquifer, and of course planning and eventually building the Buckman direct diversion, supplementing our water. So since they've brought on the Buckman direct diversion with San Juan Chama water, they have been able to rest the wells, both our city wells and the Buckman wells on the road to Buckman. And so the water tables, the water level in the aquifers has risen, and it's come back to the point where down by the Buckman wells, they've actually had artesian flows, water flowing naturally out. Now, we don't have that in Santa Fe. It'd be kind of fun if we did. The old Bishop's Bass Pond by the cathedral would be a pond again because there were springs there. But generally, with our aquifer levels rising, the health of our watershed is improving, and we're seeing that with vegetation in the riparian zones. So there's kind of some neat things there. The Living River Ordinance of 2012 that the city of Santa Fe did went a long way toward getting more water in the river up to 1,000 acre feet, and helping that aquifer out, bringing that up also. So there have been some neat things we're working on.
Would you kind of got into answering our next question from Francois Marie Patorni, which was what are the prospects of more water in the river given the expected recurrent droughts?
Yeah, so this is our challenge. We should point out that Francois Marie used to be on our board for many years and was president of the board and has been involved in water issues in Santa Fe for years, and is an expert on that. So generally with reduced precipitation, or precipitation at different timings, like less snowpack and more monsoonal type of events, what it means is our surface water is going to become less dependable. And that is going to leave us with a situation where we hope to have our aquifers fully charged, if you will, ready, because of the challenge of our surface water becoming not there. And so our aquifers are going to be our insurance policy.
What would the watershed look like without flowing river? I guess in parts it exists that way now because of the dams. So what if we look to the future to a point where stretches of the river aren't flowing freely? What becomes the mission for the watershed? Do you think at that point it's kind of maybe more of a philosophical doomsday kind of thing, but at some point the history we've known has changed quite significantly. Yeah.
So what? I'll put it in a kind of a funny expression, but what we're hanging our hat on is aquifer storage recharge. And these are simple things like rain gardens, which capture stormwater. We all know that when we have a monsoonal event, a big rainstorm, the vast majority of the water is shooting on down away from us and is lost to our watershed, Rio Grande and on down to Texas and on through there. So anyway, what we're trying to do is use stormwater as a resource. It's all one water is the concept. And so therefore we can capture the water here and recharge our aquifer here. And therefore we're able to have these reserves. And we're talking about potentially a lot of water. Our watershed's about 254,000 acres. We get on average about 1 foot 12 inches of water per year on that 254,000 acres. So we have therefore about 254,000 acre feet of water that falls on our watershed. Our water usage is only 10,000 acre feet. 10,000 is a lot of, and to give you an idea, an acre foot's about 326,000 gallons. So the idea is what we want to try and do though is capture as much of the water that falls in our watershed and keep it here. And the best place we see to store it is in our aquifers.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's pretty cool. I mean, imagine, and this is going on, we're building rain gardens all the time. We just yesterday got notice that the state river stewards program is granting us some money to build a rain garden right by Old Santa Fe Trail and Alameda Street. So that'll be going in the next 2 years now. So we can do these everywhere.
There is a question. Do you need funding for the rain gardens, or are there other ways that people can get involved?
Yes, we do need, we're always looking for funding. So to give you an idea, with our rain gardens, we've been part of a group and building a series of rain gardens in the student parking lot of Santa Fe High. And this is a huge project, and the Lisa Randall at the Santa Fe Public Schools and Aaron Kaufman from Southwest Urban Hydrology has brought us in. And what we were able to do is build, I call them parking lot rain gardens, almost like pocket rain gardens. Each one has a tree in it, because they're engineered, designed to capture enough water to support a tree without irrigation. And it's also infiltrating water back into the aquifer. These small rain gardens are as little as about $4,000 a piece. And of course they go up more, and it depends on the size and the engineering that has to happen with them. You don't just scoop out a parking lot. You have to plan on how to capture that water, infiltrate it back, and then vegetation. So those are what we've been working on.
In terms of William Henry's talk about Agua Fria, I'm wondering about the role and the relationship of the various communities, both to the watershed and the association and the work that you do.
Gotcha.
What's that look like?
Yeah, so we were involved initially with the founding of a group called the Santa Fe River Traditional Communities Collaborative. I shouldn't say we were involved with the founding, but we were for sure one of the founding members. And what this is an informal gathering of residents and governmental agencies that are involved in the areas from Agua Fria down to La Cieneguilla and La Cienega and La Bajada and El Cañon. And it's basically gathering once every now 2 months to try to see what's going on and to try and identify the issues that they have done there, because they're a lot different than the issues that we have in the city with our watershed, and of course with the municipal watershed and the upper watershed. And so that's a very important part. You can actually go on our website, SantaFeWatershed.org, and look at the Living Watershed project and go down to the lower watershed and see, we actually have the meetings on there and papers and different things that have been done. There's so much discussion on that lower watershed area, frankly, because they've kind of been left out over the last century. And so everybody realizes, yeah, they've been there and they have a right to be there. And so we're working with it.
Mm-hmm. I want to thank everyone that's still online. Thanks for being flexible in terms of the technical issues. We continue to try to sort those out as we adapt ourselves to this new normal. Having said that, I want to thank Andy for carrying the Q&A. It complements very well everything that William Mee was able to share with us in terms of the broader history. It gave us a better understanding in terms of some of the issues that the Watershed Association is advocating and supporting to best improve our water condition here in and around the Santa Fe River. I do want to mention to those that are still on that both William's talk is now online on the New Mexico History Museum Facebook page, and will be there for some time. In addition, William had asked that the slides for his presentation be posted separately. It will include the references and also give people time to review those many fascinating historical photos that he's been able to collect on the period. So again, thank you to everyone. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, William, up there in the ether. And we look forward to seeing everyone again in August. Just so that you know, the speaker for that period will be William Babcock, who is an associate professor at the University of Texas for Dallas. And he'll be speaking on blurred borders, Apache acculturation and adaptation during the last decades of Spanish rule. We'll, of course, be sending out announcements on that. And again, we will have this online. Thank you again. I hope you enjoyed the day. I certainly found it informative, as I'm sure many of you did as well. Thank you.